morning, guys. Billy D here in North American Sports Report on this Saturday, April 18th at 9 a.m. Well, guys, been a while. I'm sorry for the absence. Honestly, I did have a death in my family, and without going into it, between that and a heavy work schedule, there's been a lot going on, and I haven't really had time to get on here with you guys. Last we spoke, I did a short, real quick, to congratulate the Denver Pioneers for winning the NCAA tournament in hockey, their 11th national championship, which is the most all-time. We did go over Michigan winning the NCAA basketball tournament. We went over that. We did also go over their hockey team crapping their pants once again in the Frozen Four, which is, the Michigan hockey team has the best talent every year. They're usually number one ranked. They win the Big Ten championship. They go into the tournament. They've been to 29 Frozen Fours, which is the most, but they have not been in a national championship game in 15 years. Even though they go to the Frozen Four practically every other year, they always get beat in the semifinal. So Michigan lost to Denver, even though heavily outshooting them 52-26, and Denver went on to beat Wisconsin in the national championship 2-1, where they were also outshot, and their fabulous freshman goalie Johnny Hicks carried them in both games. Anyway, so that wraps up college. So the Wolverines got the basketball title, did not get the hockey title. I know they're one of their big boosters, David Portnoy Barstool. He's been claiming how Michigan is the number one sports university in all of the major sports now, and they're the team moving forward, but I don't think so in football. I know they have Underwood at quarterback, and spring practices have now begun. We're going to cover some of that. I still think Denver is, I still think Michigan is behind some of the big dogs in college football. I still think your top five is going to be, Ohio State, Indiana, University of Miami, Oregon will be back up there. LSU has Kiffin now. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but I don't see Michigan still in the top 7 or 8 as of yet. We shall see. I know Michigan has 3 major boosters, Elson, Ross, and Portnoy, and they're pumping tons of money into NIL, but their hockey team is becoming the Buffalo Bills or Atlanta Braves of the 90s as far as choking in championship settings goes, and their football team is still a little ways away. So I do love Dave Portnoy, but slow down just a little bit. He was chirping all over socials after Michigan won the basketball natty. We got a lot to cover. We have the NHL playoffs starting today. We have the NBA playoffs starting today. The play-ins did start. I didn't cover the play-ins again. I was tied up crazy with some personal things going on in the fam, and we did see the Hornets defeat Miami in the play-in game, but listen, Bam Adebayo went out in that game because LaVelo Ball low-bridged him. He fell, basically bashed his tailbone, sprained his ankle, and they ended up losing by 1 point in overtime, 127-126. And that ended the season for the Miami Heat, although the Hornets did eventually get bumped by the Orlando Magic, who won that little play-in sequence, and they advanced as the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. The Golden State Warriors, after winning the first play-in, were defeated by Phoenix in the second play-in, and Phoenix defeating the Portland Trailblazers, and then Phoenix knocking out Steph Curry and the Warriors. So their season is over. The Miami Heat season is over. The LA Clippers season is over, as who Golden State knocked off in their playing game. So Phoenix advances as the 8th seed in the West, and the Orlando Magic advance in the 8th seed in the East. So here's what we got. NBA seedings, Eastern Conference. Pistons are the 1 seed. The Boston Celtics, I mean, you got to give it to the Celtics. No one thought they'd be as good this year without Tatum. A lot of people weren't even sure Tatum would be back. He's back, playing well. The Celtics are healthy now, and they're going into the playoffs healthy, and they're my pick to come out of the Eastern Conference. I'm picking the Boston Celtics. So we have the Pistons as the 1 seed, the Celtics as the 2 seed, the New York Knicks in the 3 seed, and, we know the Knicks will choke and break all the Knicks fans' hearts like they've been doing for the last 53 years. That's a given. That's like death and taxes, the Knicks choking. The 4 seed is the Cleveland Cavaliers. The 5 seed is the Toronto Raptors. The 6 seed is the Atlanta Hawks. The 7 seed is the Sixers. And the 8 seed is the aforementioned Orlando Magic. That is your 8 teams in the Eastern Conference. In the West, no surprise, as we knew all year, SGA and the OKC defending champion Thunder are the 1 seed. The 2 seed is Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. The 3 seed is the Denver Nuggets, who have been hot as of late. Joker has been on a roll. The Lakers, the banged-up Lakers, who aren't sure if Doncic will play in the first round. Reeves is out. They're the 4 seed, and it's a shame because the Lakers were playing great. Well, it's a shame if you're a Laker fan. They were playing great before the injuries. They dropped down to the 4 seed. They will play the 5-seeded Rockets in the first round. They will have home court, but I don't see the Lakers beating Durant and the Rockets if Doncic and Reeves are not playing. They will get Luka back at some point. I heard it's a possibility he might even play in game 1, but he won't be 100%. But if they're just playing the first 2 games with just LeBron, the Lakers need to pray for a split at home to make this a competitive series. Otherwise, they're out in 5 or 6. So we have to look at the health status for the Lakers, seeing when Luka gets back. All right, anyway. OKC is the 1 seed. Spurs are the 2 seed. Nuggets are the 3 seed. Lakers are the 4 seed. Rockets are the 5th seed. Ant-Man and the Minnesota Timberwolves are the 6th seed. The Portland Trailblazers are the 7 seed. And the Phoenix Suns are the 8 seed. Again, the Clippers and the Warriors were knocked out in the play-ins. And in the East, the Hornets and the Heat are history. So, there you have it. There is your 16 teams in the NBA playoffs. That gets underway today. 1 o'clock. The Toronto Raptors are at Cleveland. The Cavs are 8.5-point favorites. The Timberwolves at 3:30 will be at Denver. The Nuggets are 6.5-point favorites. The Atlanta Hawks tonight at Madison Square Garden will play the New York Knicks. The Knicks are a 5.5-point favorite over the Hawks. And at 8:30, the Rockets are at Staples Center where they will play the Lakers. The Rockets are a 5.5-point favorite, and that's because no Luka and no Reeves, apparently. That's what that spread tells you. That's what that spread tells you. Let's see what we got tomorrow. Sunday, the Celtics will kick it off at TD Bank Garden. They are 12.5-point favorites over the Sixers. That's a 1 o'clock start. The Suns at the Thunder. The Thunder are 13.5-point favorites. That's 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. 6:30, it's the Pistons hosting the Magic. The Pistons are 8.5-point favorites. And then 9 o'clock, it's the Spurs, 10.5-point favorites over the Portland Trailblazers. So there you have that. So that is all your matchups for the NBA playoffs this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I'll tell you right now, I like OKC to advance. I think they'll beat they're going to beat the Suns I think they're going to sweep the Suns. I think the Lakers lose in 6. I like the Nuggets over Minnesota in 6. I like the Spurs over Portland in 5. I like the Pistons over Orlando in 6. I like the Cavs over the Raptors in 6. I like the Knicks to defeat the Hawks in the first round. I think that goes the distance. I'll take the Celtics over the Sixers in 5. That's my first round picks. Okay. Now, NHL playoffs. There's nothing better than the NHL playoffs. Also, quick note for my fam. ESPN, the app today will have the spring game on. I already see all my friends messaging me on social. They're already tailgating early this morning when they open the lot, as the Miami Hurricanes will play their spring football game today at 10:15 in the morning. Anxious to see Darian Mensah, the fine quarterback that will be taking over for the Canes, the transfer from Duke, NIL and all that. Cooper Barkate, star wide receiver that also came over with Mensah from Duke. Edge rusher Damon Williams, who will be looking to, Damon Wilson. Edge rusher Damon Wilson, who came over NIL, the former Georgia Bulldog and Missouri Tiger. Damon Wilson is looking to replace big shoes in Ruben Bain, who will be a first-round NFL draft pick. And I'm excited. I think Wilson's going to be an excellent player. He was an excellent player at his previous 2 stops in Missouri and Georgia. Obviously, there's still a legal battle going on from the time he met Georgia, left the Bulldogs for Missouri. But listen, this is what these kids are doing, these young men. They're going to put a stop to that, though. And a stop, I mean, there will be rules coming down. It's already in the making right now, where you will no longer be allowed to transfer more than once without sitting out a year. They're going to knock this thing where they're going to nip this in the bud where you can't transfer. There are some kids that are playing for 4 different schools in 4 years. Now, I realize that's kind of like the Wild Wild West. We can't have that. We can't have that. It's a little crazy. And listen, college football has become like free agency. It's just like NFL free agency. But even in free agency, players don't switch every single year. Imagine if every player in the NFL had a new team every single year. College football's, and I love NIL. I've told you, my opinions on NIL. I don't care that they pay these players all this money. It makes the sport better, the product's better, the ratings are up. Teams that were gone for a while are back, like the Canes. Teams you would never expect, like SMU and Indiana, are programs in the playoff. You never would have had that happen. NIL evens the playing field. That's why guys like Nick Saban left Alabama, because they were paying players all along. And now he knew he didn't have the market cornered anymore, and it wouldn't just be Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State every single freaking year as the favorites for the Natty. That's history. So I love NIL, but they gotta put some rules on this. Players shouldn't be able to transfer more than twice, and otherwise they got to sit out a year, and that will probably keep them to not transferring more than twice or only transferring once. And that's what you want. But paying them, as far as getting free agent contracts, I'm fine with that. I don't want to hear the college purists, it's ruining the game. Where's the loyalty for the school? That's all bullshit. It's about the product on the field, okay? These kids are, I'd like to see them all get an education, but the kids playing at the higher level want to play on the next level, and their likenesses have been used for years in video games. These schools make fortunes on football weekends with the fans and the stadiums and the jerseys and all the products sold, all the paraphernalia sold. These kids deserve to get paid. So I'm all about NIL and all about today's version of college football. It's like an NFL product, and it's better than ever. So for my South Florida fam, I know a lot of you will be at the spring game. I'll be missing you all. I'll be down there for a few games this year before my eventual move back Anyway, okay, so we got to do the NHL playoffs. NHL playoffs, to me, the most exciting playoff scenarios in all of sport. The NHL playoffs are the best in all of sports. Maybe tied with the NFL playoffs, but I like the NHL playoffs. I think even better. All right, Eastern Conference. Eastern Conference. So we had the Sabres win the Atlantic. Okay, followed by Montreal, Tampa. Your wild cards are the Bruins and the Senators. Obviously, Carolina won the Metropolitan. So let's go over our matchups in the NHL playoffs today, or for the entire tournament. Eastern Conference. Your 1 seed is the Carolina Hurricanes. They will open against the Ottawa Senators. Your 2 seed, the Buffalo Sabres, return into the playoffs for the first time in 14 years. They will open against the Boston Bruins. The 2-3 in the Atlantic, the Montreal Canadiens will open against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the 2-3 in the Metropolitan, the Pittsburgh Penguins will open against the Philadelphia Flyers. That is your matchups in the Eastern Conference. In the West, the top seed and President's Trophy winning Colorado Avalanche. They will open with wild card 2, the LA Kings, who were the final wild card entry in the West. The Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild, the 2-3 in the Pacific. Now, listen, this series is a perfect example of why the NHL, as much as I love it, needs to go back to the 1-8 format. There's no reason why teams as great as Dallas or Minnesota should be out after the first round, and that's what's going to happen to one of them. There's no reason for it. The NHL has got to go back to 1-8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. They have to. I know they like these interdivision. They love the first round to be a bloodbath and a war. I think it's unfair that some of these great teams don't get to see the second round. They got to fix that. Anyway, not going to happen this year. So you have the Stars and the Wild. We already said you have the Avalanche versus the LA Kings. Should be no problem for the Avalanche. Kings, the final wild card entry. The Vancouver Golden Knights. The Las Vegas Golden Knights. So the Vegas Golden Knights get John Tortorella as their head coach, and they won 7 games in a row. They finished the season on an 11-game point streak where they went 8-0-3 down the stretch, won their division, and the Vegas Golden Knights go into the playoffs hot as anybody. John Tortorella, see, that's what the Islanders tried to do with DeBoer, but the only difference is they wanted DeBoer long-term in Long Island no matter what. And obviously they went 1-3 after the switch there, so they did not get the same result that Vegas did. So the Golden Knights will play first wild card Utah Mammoth. The Utah Mammoth and Vegas Golden Knights. That's the other matchup. Then you have the Edmonton Oilers and the Anaheim Ducks. Edmonton again trying to get back to the Stanley Cup with Connor McDavid and Leo Draisaitl. And listen, goaltending's always been a problem for them. They're going to have Jerry, I guess, starting, as Stuart Skinner is now in Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh also has the backup, former Calder Cup champion, the kid Sheloff. And he's, if Stuart Skinner even stumbles a little, Sheloff will be in there because he played good in stretches this season. Okay, so Colorado, Los Angeles, Dallas, Minnesota, Vegas, Utah, and Edmonton, Anaheim. That is your Western Conference. I've got Colorado defeating LA. I got them sweeping them. I have Minnesota beating Dallas. Dallas is going into this game with no hints. Rupe Hintz, their fine finish forward. He is going to miss probably the first 2 games, and that's big because he is a great player. Heiskanen, their star defenseman, another Finn, is rumored to be playing today. That's big for Dallas. If he misses this game, if they're both out for game 1, that's a problem. Dallas will have home ice. I still think I like Minnesota in 7 in this series. I like Vegas to dispatch of Utah in 6. I like the Oilers to beat Anaheim in 5. That is my picks for the first round. Now, you guys know the very beginning of the season, I picked the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Vegas Golden Knights. This was right before the season started. I'm going to stick with that just because, hey, I picked it from the beginning. I like the Lightning in the East, and I still do. Gun to my head, I would take Colorado, obviously, to join Tampa Bay in the Stanley Cup Finals right now. That would be my pick as of right now. But in the beginning of the season, you guys know I did pick Vegas and Tampa to make it. And the only reason I didn't pick Florida was because I knew they were starting the season with no Barkov and no Tkachuk. Of course, I had no idea that the Florida Panthers would encounter more injuries than any team in the history of the NHL. That is a proven fact. As I posted on the socials how many players and how many man games were lost by the Panthers. It's the most in NHL history. I think at one point 15 of their 18 starters were out of the lineup. That's never happened before in the NHL. The only guys I do believe that made it through the entire year without an injury was Gustav Forsling, who was banged up but played through it, Carter Verhaeghe, and I think Kunin, one of their fourth-line grinders that they brought up from Charlotte to play for the injured Gadjevich and Nojek for most of the season. I think those are the only 3 players that didn't miss any time due to injury. They might have had a load management day here and there, which, you know, NHL players don't do that, but if you're battered and bruised, they might take one day off, not like the basketball pussies do. They're always freaking taking, they never play back-to-back days. That's one of the many reasons why I don't cover the NBA as much as I did, because those guys are a bunch of soft prima donnas. Sorry, not sorry. I said it. But for the most part, I think there was only 2 or 3 Panthers that went through the season unscathed. Sam Bennett might have been, Sam missed a couple of games, but for the most part, he played most of the games. Carter Verhaeghe played most of the games. Kunin played most of the games, and Forsling. Those 4 guys, I do believe, only missed 1 or 2 games. I don't know if Verhaeghe missed any until they rested players down the stretch to play the AHL guys so they would secure their first-round draft pick, which they did. They got their draft pick back from the Chicago trade because in the deal it said if the Panthers don't make the playoffs and finish in the bottom 5 of the league, they had to finish in the bottom 5, they'd get their first-round draft pick back, which nobody thought in a million years that would happen. But the Panthers did get their first-round draft pick back, and they will even be in the lottery for a shot at first overall pick Gavin McKenna. So, and kudos to the Panthers. They won their final 3 games of the season. They still finished with a winning record. With all those injuries, I expect them, if healthy, you know, once they got Marchie and Barkey and everybody back full bore next year, and now they'll have a first-round draft pick, I expect the Panthers to be back in the running next year for a Stanley Cup title. But because of all that, that was why early on I picked the Lightning. They are my pick to win the Stanley Cup, and I'm going to stick with that. I am picking the Tampa Bay Lightning to go all the way. Of course, they will have a difficult task right off the bat with the Montreal Canadiens and their star-studded lineup, who I got to see last week beat up the New York Islanders. Cole Caulfield, a 50-goal scorer, and Nick Suzuki, Ivan Demidov, who's going to finish probably right behind Matthew Schaefer for Rookie of the Year. Just an exciting team. Lane Hudson on defense. The only problem with the Canadiens has been depth on defense and goaltending, which I think will eventually bite them in the ass. And what I feel will be a 6 or 7 game first-round series, but I do think the Lightning will prevail and then roll from there in the Eastern Conference. I like the Lightning to face the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I like the Colorado Avalanche to play the Vegas Golden Knights in the Western Final. That's going to be my Final 4. I think that, listen, a lot of people think Edmonton's on a mission. I don't think Edmonton's as good as they were last year. But all right, let's get to the schedule for the NHL playoffs before we get out of here. It starts today, 3 p.m. The Ottawa Senators at the Carolina Hurricanes. Obviously, the favors are always favored by a goal and a half. Hurricanes are minus 148 on the money line. At 5:30, the Minnesota Wild and Dallas Stars, which will be the most highly contested first round series in my opinion. Dallas is favored. The money line is 120, minus 120 for Dallas, so slightly favored today. The Battle of Pennsylvania, the Pittsburgh Penguins and Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin return with a lot of youngsters that helped them this year. The young Russian Chinkov was fantastic. Actually, you know what? I want to give a shout out to some of these guys. They've been just so good. And you know what? Listen, they breathed life. The young players, they breathed life into this team. And it really was the reason. I mean, obviously you know about the Erik Karlsson and the Malkins and the Crosbys, and you know about the veterans that have been there before. But guys like this Igor Chinakhov, who basically is a 25-year-old who, had played for Columbus and had high hopes for him, and he never really panned out. And they got him off the scrap heap for free, and he has been just a difference maker for the Penguins this year. And also, this kid Ben Kindle is an 18-year-old rookie who put up over 20 goals this year. So with Chinakhov and Kindle, youthful exuberance and immediate offensive input has been part of the reason why the Penguins, who were not even favored to make the playoffs, they have breathed new life into not just this team, but this franchise. Kindle and Chinakhov, I expect to be difference makers for the Penguins for years to come. You know about the usual core, which, and honestly, this kid Arturs Slivos, who was a Calder Cup winning goalie for the Abbotsford Canucks, he was in the Vancouver Canucks system, and he was fantastic. I thought this was a hidden steal, signing him away. But you know what? Then they make the trade for Jarry to Skinner, and I was like, I'm not a Skinner guy. I think Skinner is the reason why. Edmonton would always fall short. He'd be great enough to get them there, and then he'd always, shit the bed. They got surprises too by picking up Anthony Mantha. He's had a great year for the Penguins. But, okay, so the Penguins and Flyers are 8 p.m. That's going to wrap off tonight. So, again, Senators, Hurricanes, 3 o'clock. Wild Stars, 5:30. And Flyers at Penguins at 8 p.m. Penguins are obviously also favored. The home teams are all the favorites. Penguins are minus 148. I am going to give you tomorrow's Sunday games. Avalanche hosting the Kings. That's at 3. Obviously, the Avs a heavy favorite. Another one of my two favorite series in the first round is Dallas, Minnesota, as I said, and also Montreal, Tampa, and Boston, Buffalo. I love those 3 matchups. So Montreal at Tampa, that is at 5:45. That's the second game on Sunday. And then Sunday we'll wrap up with the Bruins and Sabres at 7:30 from Buffalo. Buffalo minus 155 in the money line. And the last game of the evening, 10 o'clock for you guys that are going to stay up all the way through, the Utah Mammoth and the Vegas Golden Knights. The Knights are minus 155 at home. So Vegas, Utah wraps up Sunday night. So there you go. Sunday, Kings Avs at 3. Habs Lightning at 5:45, Bruins Sabres at 7:30, and Utah and Vegas at 10 o'clock. So there you have it. That is your NHL playoff preview. We gave you your NBA playoff preview. It's going to be an exciting weekend in sports. We're going to get back to the MLB. We were doing some MLB, but listen, that's not... we're way early into that. We don't need to go over. I know the Mets have been slumping terribly, as the Mets do. I mean, the Mets are like the ugly stepchild of the New York area. I mean, they always suck. They always suck. And you know what? They spend the money, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is with the New York Mets. They never could get it right. You look on paper, and you'd say, hey, I got some people on the chat. Okay, yeah. You forgot to mention Chris Letang. Yes, Chris Letang, part of the Pittsburgh Penguins core of defensemen and part of their, 3-time Stanley Cup, 4-time conference champion dynasty that looked to be over, but they're going to have one more run at the latter days of their career. Obviously, Carlson still left over. Obviously, Malkin. Obviously, Crosby. Letang, Crosby, and Malkin. I do believe the only 3 members left from all 4 Stanley Cup. All teams. Those are the only 3 players left from the 4 trips to the Stanley Cup since 2008. They've been to the Cup 4 times in 19 seasons, won 3 of them, and, have always been a contender. They've fallen off the last few years where they've been first-round exits. I know the Islanders were beating up on them a lot in the first round, but the Penguins are back. And yes, Letang and Crosby and Malkin will try to give it one more last run. I honestly think that they're going to have trouble with Philly. You know what? We actually didn't pick who we like to come out of the East. We gave you our Western Conference winners. I mean, I told you who I like to. Get to the Cup. I am still picking. I did pick Tampa and Vegas in the beginning. I will say at the start of the playoffs, I do like Colorado to represent the West, and I still am sticking with Tampa to win the East. But I like Buffalo to defeat the Bruins in 6 games. I like Tampa to defeat Montreal in 7 games. I think that's going to go the distance, but I think Tampa will roll from there. I think this will be their biggest challenge. Well, I think they end up beating Montreal in 7, and eventually they will face the Carolina Hurricanes, who are an excellent team. But unfortunately, I think the Carolina Hurricanes will once again find heartache in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think they will also lose to Tampa in 7 games. I do like Carolina to defeat Ottawa in 5. I actually like the Flyers to defeat the Penguins in 7 games in the Battle of Pennsylvania. I'm picking the Flyers to defeat Pittsburgh in 7. I like the Carolina Hurricanes to defeat Ottawa in 5. I like the Lightning to defeat Montreal in 6 or 7. And I think the same for Buffalo. I think actually Buffalo will defeat Boston in 6 games. And that will be the winners of round 1. That wraps up your NHL postseason preview, and we already did the NBA, so we are going to get out of here. There is one other story I want to touch on before we split. Now, I want to say this. A lot has been made of this Diane Russini resigning from The Athletic. I'm sure you've all heard it on your socials or in your sports news how apparently Russini's husband, Goldschmidt his name is, he hired a private investigator because he was suspicious of his wife and possible infidelity. And pictures surfaced, and I'm sure you guys have seen them. I did post one of the stories on my socials. And it does look like they're having a fling. I mean, their arm around each other in the hot tub, them holding hands. They say they're just friends. They were just hanging out. They said there was a whole group of friends with them, and the pictures were taken out of context. The only problem with that is none of those so-called friends came forward. None of them did. Nobody is backing up their story. It does look like Goldschmidt had his wife followed to, basically get the goods on her, get the evidence, because he feared something was going on, and it does look like he was right. It's very embarrassing for Diana, who's been a great NFL reporter, but now you question, well, now you know how she gets all these inside scoops. Terrible to say, but it does appear that she is having a relationship with Vrabel, and Mike Vrabel actually canceled his media coverage at the owners' meetings where all the coaches and the pre-draft coverage. He canceled his interviews there. He hasn't spoke to media. He's been shielded by the Patriots. But, honestly, he's not losing his job. Who has more to lose? It's so hard for women to break in the past years. Obviously, there are plenty of notable female journalists nowadays, and many have blazed the trail before them, but obviously harder for women than it is for men. And then when like Joy Taylor. Joy Taylor kind of screwed up her career because, she was banging everybody at Fox. Emmanuel Ocho and who else knows who else, And now Joy Taylor is, she doesn't have a good reputation because she's viewed as someone who screwed her way to the top. And that's a bad look for female journalists, and you kind of want to stay away from that because it's hard enough for you guys to advance in the game as it is. And obviously you see now Diane Russini will definitely suffer more than Mike Vrabel will. He's not losing his job. He might lose his wife, though, because both these guys are married, and it's obvious something was going on, and they got caught, and it's just an unfortunate story, and it's unfortunate that Diane Russini will bear the brunt of it as she has resigned from The Athletic, and who knows where her career will go from there. Hate to have to report that, but that's part of the news. Anyway, I'm Billy D. This has been the North American Sports Report. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please follow me on DraftKings and DraftKings. You can follow my DraftKings pick because I post them. Please follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Follow Billy DiNapoli on Instagram, Facebook. You can I sometimes post on X. I'm on TikTok. But I do post these live shows on Billy DiNapoli Facebook. And the shorts are on any show under 15 minutes or 20 minutes is also on Instagram. But we're always on Facebook Live and our YouTube channel, North American Sports Report. So please subscribe to that if you want to. I often get your contributions on the North American Sports Report Cash App and Venmo. Those tips are appreciated. They go a long way to keep me rolling with you guys. But you guys know I don't do it for that. I just do it because I love talking sports with you guys. I love the interaction. I love the messages I get from you guys. Anyway, you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy all the NBA and NHL playoffs. I am Billy D, and I am out of here. You guys have a great, great day.